exchanging in business. It's funny because Tom wanted to talk. I had this idea of why start a business? Why should anybody tell their story? Why should they start a business? Why should they share their message? And then at the same time, Tom had this idea of the value of giving and receiving. So, Tom, you want to just touch on that for a moment?
Sure, Tom. Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, Jim. Great to see you guys here. I was just telling Dom, I was watching a documentary. I filmed a project with MIT up in Boston over the weekend, and somebody up there recommended this documentary to me called Fantastic Fungi. And so I tuned into this documentary yesterday afternoon, decided to watch it. And in the course of watching it, I had a little bit of like a realization, a little aha moment. And good morning, Katie Haynes. Good to see you here. And in that aha moment, I realized that my legendeering strategy actually sort of mimics evolutionary biology. And what I mean by that is if you take bees, right? Honeybees, for example, right? Honeybees are pollinators. We all know that. We all know that honeybees play a critical role. They play a critical role in agriculture, right? And I forget what the number is, but a large amount of our commercial agriculture actually relies on honeybees to cross-pollinate plants and generate, fruit and vegetables from those plants for us to eat. And so as I was thinking about it, I realized that like the relationship between bees and plants is not altruistic. Bees aren't helping plants because it makes them feel good, right? They're bees. They're helping plants, or plants evolved to take advantage of the fact that bees were feeding on the nectar of their flowers to spread their pollen, right? So the plants created pollen. And so it's a symbiotic value exchange between bees and plants. Bees get what they need. They get the nectar that they need to create honey for their colonies to flourish. And the plants get to spread their pollen so that they can replicate and create new generations of plants, right? So it's a mutually beneficial arrangement, right? And that's kind of what my legendeering strategy is all about, right? Is about creating mutually beneficial relationships between businesses and the communities that they seek to serve. And by encouraging businesses to lead with value, to deliver value to the community that they seek to serve first, and basically to be the plants, right? To be the plants, to deliver that nectar to the honey or to the honeybees, right? And then to allow the bees to spread their pollen or their product, right? Or their sales, their community. So that was just something that popped into my mind, but I think it's a good place to start today. It's a good conversation to have is what are all of us doing? What are each of us doing in our own way to bring value, to create value, to bring value, and to help other folks in our communities survive and thrive?
Tom, how do we know that our business brings real value? Like that it's not just tearing up the land, tearing through leads, that it's not a service that really doesn't provide them value. It's a service they might use, but it doesn't provide value and they're not coming back.
I mean, I think I would argue if your people are using your service, then it provides some value in some way, right? Otherwise, why would they use it?
Yeah.
So
I'm just I'm going to something. Could something be obsolete? Let's say I used to sell yellow pages, and when I sold yellow page ads, I sold these little squares. And for those of you listening, if you don't know what yellow pages are, let's go back. Michael Lozia,
yeah.
he knows what a yellow page is. I see but used to sell these yellow page ads right at the beginning of the internet. So here I am in sales, and my job is to sell these ads in the phone book. If I'm truly helping people right when Google was blowing up, I might have said to them, you should transfer this percentage of your advertising budget over to Google right now. And that's so how do you know when, well, this is who I work for, but this over here could help you too. How's that for a question?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, look, I guess you have to ask, then the question really is, should you be working for Yellow Pages anymore, right? If you no longer believe in the product, right, or believe in the value of the product or the service, then you need to revisit what you're doing, right? But yeah, I mean, I think as long as you believe in it, right? If you believe that what you're doing is creating value for people, then you should push forward with it, right? If that until you're shown that that belief is false or incorrect, right? Or the evidence stacks up so that it's clear that that belief is false or incorrect. Then I think you start questioning what you're doing and you move on from it. I mean, I think that's a healthy thing to do. At the end of the day, I think you should always question what you're doing, right? I think you should always revisit and continually look for ways to iterate on your product or service to make it better and to ensure that you continue to deliver value. I think stagnation is a surefire way to guarantee that over time you will cease to deliver value for your audience or for your customers, right? I
Tom,
mean,
we were talking about clips and things like that the other day in another room I was in, and you should absolutely clip that. And Jim Ajay just gave you some claps on what you were saying there. So thanks, Jim, and
yeah,
100% agree with you, brother. I mean, any change that I've made career wise over the years, it was always based on that. I no longer believed in what that corporation or what that product was. I remember sitting in pharmaceuticals. I was in pharmaceutical sales, and sometimes I'd be there and I'd be waiting for the doctors to buy them lunch or something like that. And it's an honorable career, but I'd be waiting to buy them lunch, and I'd see some elderly people who took the bus there and missed their appointment. And because it was hard for them to get on the bus, and they'd be sitting there asking them if they could still be seen by the doctor, or they'd be complaining about their medicine, the price of their medicine. And to me, as a person seeing, well, this doesn't jive here with what's going on. Why is these people are paying too much for their medicine, and here I am selling that kind of medicines, those in buying the doctors these lavish lunches, and it just didn't all add up to me, and I no longer believed in that. Let's meet some new people. We got to meet our Astasia, Jess, our boy Michael, Charlie. Charlie, how do you make sure you are adding value? Charlie, Charlie, you may not know, Charlie ran a highly successful trash company that he started from scratch. And so I guess, Charlie, I heard you say you had thousands of clients, a couple thousand clients. So how did you make sure you were adding value?
Ian, good morning, everybody. I believe in my product. I was able to deliver a clean, resourceful way of picking up trash, and I got heavily into recycling before it was even fashionable or the green buzzword was even used in the Midwest. And I believe the bigger I grew, the more value I was able to give to my customers because the cost of hauling trash became lower and lower as I had more and more equipment. Um, Tough business. It's a business that's on demand. I mean, it's incredible. People will complain about the cost of a plumber showing up or an electrician, but to haul trash, people want it gone. And I did an honest day's work for an honest day's pay, and was really proud of that. Today, I'm not focusing on commerce anymore. I'm really looking to carry a message of hope into a book that hopefully I'll release soon. And it just feels nice now to, do a podcast, to do talks, and to not look for a nickel, not look for a dollar, not look for anything, but the hope that someone can take something out of my message. Almost like, when you think about people complain about Facebook, but how many relationships did Mark Zuckerberg allowed to develop or connect on a platform that basically has been free since he started it. So, not have any objectives right now or trying to get a house on the hill and all that stuff. I've done that, been there. Um, it's more of a healing process that I'm in right now where there are thousands and millions of people that have food addictions, they're polysubstance addicted, and I just want to share my story of how I got away from food addiction and I'm sober and the decisions I made. And the most important thing is I found happiness was really right under my feet. It wasn't in a 10,000 square foot house or having a new Ferrari. It was simply redefining what made me happy and getting simplistic and getting, believe it or not, out of anything I can deliver to anybody. What changed my life more than putting down drink, gambling, anything was my food. Today I am sober with my eating and I am conscious because I live in a clear world today that I didn't when I was continually grazing from the time I got up till the time I went to bed. I'm back to my high school weight and it feels great. That completes me.
Well done, Charlie, man. Here's a guy following his passion, using what he learned in business to go out and follow his passion and now share his story. So thank you, Charlie, man. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. Hey, Tom, I am getting to meet Charlie soon. We got it figured out. We both live in Pennsylvania, about 6 hours apart, and we're going to drive about 3 hours. We met in Clubhouse. We met in Clubhouse, and we are taking the Clubhouse relationship. We're going to meet in Penn State. We're going to have lunch. We're going to walk around, and so I would encourage anybody to look left. Producer Jimmy says, look left, look right, Brady Bunch style. She says, try to connect with everybody. So I'd encourage you to do that. Okay, we need to meet. All right, here's what we're going to, this is the room we talk Clubhouse, podcasting, publishing, and social media. We need to meet an expert in the publishing space, sharing it in the storytelling space, really. So we're going to meet Michael and then Anastasia and Jess. So Michael, man, glad you're here today. What's up, brother?
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm doing well. 6:30 here on the Pacific Coast, North. I live on an island in Victoria. Dominic knows where that is. I've been teaching him some Canadian geography lessons. I heard the question earlier, and the question changes. So I'm answering a question I heard earlier about giving value. When I'm booking a one-on-one client, they use my system called Acuity. And I automatically send them a 48-hour follow-up email asking them about their results since they've had their emotion code session. I also tell them that that's coming. And I having a 90% customer, 90% of my clients are replying to that email, telling me their updates and what's happening. And almost everyone is so impressed that I'm asking them for feedback. Because I know that we go to the doctor, the dentist, the hairdresser. Nobody dares follow up in 48 hours, find out how you're doing. So it's a quick little email that I get, and people say, hey, here's what's happening. And so it costs me about a minute per client, and it's been my best strategy for, I think that was the question, adding value. How do I add value? Yeah, I take time to read a quick little email where people are bragging about their results. Boo-hoo, what a hard email to read that is. So that's what
Michael,
I'm.
what do
Go
you
ahead.
do? What do you do with the email then? I mean, now that you have this, you have the feedback, whether good or
Mhm.
bad, and sometimes people get bad feedback and they're like, well, that guy's an idiot. So what do you do when you get good
Oh,
or
it's
bad feedback? How do you
okay.
use
Let's
it?
just say, for example, I'm working with you on sleeping, and we met 48 hours ago online. I did an emotion code session. Your sleeping was a 9 out of 10. You can't sleep at all. And then you email me 48 hours, and you say, and I train them not to say the word better. They have to give me a number. They say, oh, they could say my sleep is better. It's down. Now it's about a 4 out of 10. Before it was bad. From the email, I do another emotion code session with them that takes about 30 seconds, identifying more emotions. And I reply to it and said, you'll see another difference tonight. Or if someone, maybe they were drinking coffee or Coke or Pepsi or something, and they might say, hey, I still crave it once in a while. Just from the email, I can do another follow-up session. And people love when I do that. And I tell them that. I said, let me know in your email in 48 hours. And that's how you build customer loyalty, engaging in them. And they like that. They like that little free service. It costs me a minute of my time, but it's really building, long-term clients.
Great feedback, brother. If anybody here, and sometimes I don't do my housekeeping accurately enough, so I might get back channeled and say, oh, I didn't do this or I didn't do that. So if anybody has a question or anything like that, you'd like to come up, we try to invite everybody. We have this belief in equal opportunity. So whether you've sold a lot of books or been Emmy nominated, like my buddy Tom here, or you're just starting a podcast, or you're thinking of writing a book, or you're thinking of going and giving a speech somewhere, you have the experts here. And whether on stage or below, ask the question, share the tip, and we'll make sure we try to get you the answers. We're live streaming. Tom's got us set up to live stream. Tom is helping me as well, because last week on our live stream, my internet connection, Tom, I want to touch on this. A lot of people do. We always talk about podcast interviews and being a guest on them. And I've been a guest on probably hundreds at this point, hosted shows and stuff like that. Tell us about connection. Now we're going into the roots here, the weeds, but I want people to understand this. Bad connection, bad audio, bad editing, and any of these storytellings can screw you. I'm saying it. So tell us about bad connection, Tom, and how we can have better connection.
Absolutely, Dom. Look, at the end of the day, the worst thing you can do when you are invited to be on a podcast, be part of a live stream, be part of an interview, right? I think one of the worst things you can do is show up unprepared. But I see people do it all the time, right? Is people show up unprepared. So that's, I think, the worst thing you can do. I think that part of being prepared for a virtual appearance is making sure that your internet connection is stable, right? So here's the thing is opening a web page on your internet browser doesn't really tell you the story you need to understand, right? When it comes to whether or not your internet connection is stable. Wi-Fi will always have some hiccups in it, right? It's a radio signal going through walls and floors in your house, depending on how far away you are from your router or your modem, right? And so what happens is that signal gets unstable as it travels distance, as it moves through solid objects, and you end up with glitchy internet, and especially video, because video takes a lot of bandwidth, right? Video takes a lot of bandwidth, and so you need a really stable internet connection. So the best thing you can do to make sure that when you show up for a virtual appearance, people not only are happy to have you on and happy to hear what you have to say, but also want to invite you back, is you always want to hardwire your connection, right? That is, it's not about getting signal boosters for your Wi-Fi. It's not about moving your Wi-Fi router. It's not about get a wire. Go old school, right? Get a wire. It is the way to ensure that your internet connection will be stable. It's what I use here in my home office. It's what I use when I've done live stream events for clients on a professional basis. It's the way to make sure that your internet connection is stable and not glitchy. So make sure when you show up for a virtual appearance, you show up prepared. And part of being prepared is making sure your internet connection is stable. So get a wire, get an Ethernet cable. They are cheap, right? Dom, how much did you spend on that 50-foot cable you're using today?
50 foot, it was pretty big, $35.
Yeah.
I saw them, Walmart was out, so I had to go two places. Maybe I could have got one cheaper at Walmart, but $35. And I to what Tom's saying is, I've seen glitches at times, and last week we glitched I glitched like crazy on the live stream. It was unacceptable. And then I started thinking, you look at, let's say you're watching CNN or you're watching the news or something like that. Have you ever watched and you see the people hourglassing and things like that? Those are the people that told CNN or those production companies that, oh, I'm hardwired in, and they're really on Wi-Fi, and that's why they're cutting out like that. And where I wanted to go with this, Tom, is here's each of you with such a great story to share. You're trying to share it the best way you can, and now you share it somewhere and it's unusable content. You can't reshare it. The host doesn't even give it to you. The host might not even air it because they're like, wow, this guy wasn't any good. So continue,
Yeah.
Tom.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think just test it, right? Test it. It's one of those things like, here's a huge pet peeve. I'm just going to air a pet peeve real quick, right? So I was in a business networking meeting. This goes back a couple of months. I was in a business networking meeting, right? We're over 2 years in to holding all these meetings virtually, right? Over 2 years in, and there was a guy who was doing a presentation and he couldn't figure out how to share his screen. And I was so annoyed at this because, first of all, I think it's something he should have known how to do. Like I said, 2 years in to holding all these meetings virtually, he's been on hundreds of virtual meetings. He should know how to do it. And two, he knew he was presenting. That was not a surprise. He should have tested it and made sure he knew how to do it before he wasted everybody's time in the meeting. The other reason I was really annoyed is because I had a certain amount of time that I was allotted for, 60 seconds to give a quick little sort of pitch about my business and what I do. I went over by about 7 seconds, right? So I talked for 67 seconds instead of 60 seconds. And they like shut me down, right? And kind of came down, like brought the hammer down on me for going over by like 7 seconds. We wasted 10 minutes with this guy trying to figure out how to share his screen. So I was very frustrated given the entirety of the circumstance. But like, I think there's no excuse for that, right? If you know you have to give a presentation, you make sure you show up for that presentation prepared. Make sure you know how to share your screen. You test it with someone beforehand. It's like when I talked about creating video content. What do? You get your camera out of your pocket and you start making videos and you test and you practice, right? Because as we learned a few weeks back, practice makes improvement, right? Practice makes improvement. Doesn't make perfect because nobody's perfect, but it makes improvement, right? So like anything else, get your camera out, get on Zoom with a friend, whatever the case may be. If you have a presentation, if you've got an appearance, if you're going to be on somebody's podcast, test your audio in advance, right? Make sure you're prepared going in to deliver an appearance or deliver a presentation. I yield the mic.
Thank you, Tom. Hey, I saw Prof T clapping a little bit when you were speaking, so I wanted to hit her and see what her thoughts were on it. And I see it's her birthday too. The Clubhouse birthday. Happy birthday to you. Go on, Prof T.
Oh, good morning. Thank you. This is Teresa Augustinelli, otherwise known as Prof T from Philly. My microphone button is really messed up, so I apologize. I was just saying hello and clapping. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for bringing me on the stage. I'm listening and learning as I listen and sharing the page. So thank you for allowing me to be up here.
Hey, thank you. And it was Michael Lozia who he encouraged us to start a club. Well, thank you, Michael. And so there is a club. And if you share it out, use any of those buttons, the comments down there, or the little, I don't know, what is that? An envelope with a arrow on it. Use that. Clip yourselves talking. We want you to do your thing. Use this however you can. Get information, practice, whatever. Aristasia, welcome. I'm glad you're here today. Introduce yourself, ask a question, or drop a tip. Go on.
Hello, everyone. I'm Aristasia. I am a creative entrepreneur. So I own a few different creative businesses, photography, wedding photography, also a mural artist. And then I also am a podcast host for Passion and Potential, where I help other creatives embrace their passions and turn their hobbies into a business. So I'm not really sure if you want me to keep talking about, we were talking about value earlier. That was the last question I heard. So I can kind of expand on that. But one way that I really try and add value. So if we're talking like service based, my wedding photography and my mural art, one way I really try and add value, it's going to sound a little bit broad, but I really put myself inside of my client's shoes. Like I really try and tap into exactly what their brain is like, what they need, what would be their pain points, what would be the things that really stress them out or make them really happy and shine. And so with wedding photography, I have learned the clients I want to attract, which is a very certain type of couple getting married. And I've learned the ones I don't want to, because when I put myself inside of what they need, it didn't align with my values. And so I really try with all of my marketing and the ways that I serve them is to say, okay, what is this client like? What do they need? And are they the right fit for me? Can I put myself in their brain and truly understand how I can give the best value to them? With my podcast, it's kind of a similar concept, except that I'm not serving someone in terms of, you know, photographing them. I'm providing knowledge, and it's the same thing. I put myself in their shoes, and I try and think, all right, when I was a young creative business owner trying to launch my business off the ground, what did I need from somebody? What did I really need? And then that's how I provide the value to people to really give them all the things that could help and make them want more from me. I think that's a good uh, talking point.
Hey, we accept, we receive it. Put yourself in their shoes. So put yourself in their mind. So that's definitely a good one. So Anastasia, just doubling back, what do you do if you're not the right fit? How quick do you get out? How do you know? So you get on a call and you're um, pounding. What would you banging your head up against a wall? How do you get out respectfully?
That is such a good question. Thank you for asking that. So prior to even the call, I really try and gauge that ideal customer. So not only through my marketing, like I very much so speak to them, but my website is speaking exactly to them. And then even the contact form is speaking to them. I ask very engaging questions like, what are you most excited for about your wedding? What do you love most about your partner? And I really try and gauge them to expand on all the things I need to know. And say they still do inquire and I don't feel like it's a fit, I would never offend somebody and be like, you're not the one for me. Like, that is not the case here. I just will, I'll often just say, I don't think that we're a match, or I don't think I can give you what you need. Even because sometimes people want a different style in photography. And I've told people, I don't think I match up with your style, but I have friends who do. Here's some referrals. And then sometimes if it's because I don't like to upset people, and I'm going to admit this, so don't judge me, guys, but I'll just say I'm unavailable, and I don't expand on why. I don't say, like, I don't like you or anything. I'm unavailable. Here's some referrals that I think could really help you and that you'll be really happy with.
Hey, thank you very much. Hey, appreciate it, Tom. We're learning stuff today. Clubhouse, podcasting, publishing, and social media. We do this room every week. Every Wednesday, we're here. We just trying to add value, trying to, we get just as much value from everybody in this room. So selfishly, I bring a notepad a lot of times. One time I wrote down, take notes. It was the dumbest note I have ever written. And I looked back at it and it said, write things down. So dumb. Okay. Jess, what are you up to today? Share a tip, ask a question. Go on.
Good morning. Good morning, Tom. Good morning, Dominic. I was in y'all's room, I think it was last week, so I found it really interesting and engaging, very positive community. For me, I guess share. I mean, I do a little of a lot, but sharing value is, our podcast. So our podcast is essentially kind of telling the story of hip hop. but it's the past, the present, and kind of the future. So as you tell the story through seasons, we kind of call them semesters of college almost. Um, we open doors, for independent artists. As well as that's our umbrella company and our subsidiary, which is all encompassing consulting. But basically, it's really I drive with purpose and passion. And one thing is, whether it's the entertainment industry or any industry, everything is 90% business. And I'm a firm believer that whatever you invest in your career, you get back twofold. So, I mean, I just live by my values and my integrity. So that's kind of, I guess, a little bit about me and kind of just the way I do things.
We accept it that what you put out, you're going to work hard, you're going to get things back. A lot of isn't that the way of the world that we should. Now, Tom, give me your thoughts on this, because when I was a restaurateur, I all of a sudden roads went under construction, and now I'm working. You probably used to work from, let's say, 9 to 9 or 8 to 10, like 12, 15 hours a day. And then on the weekends, I'd have to go travel about an hour because I'd run out of food on like Friday night. So I'd have to go down Saturday and Sunday to the fresh food markets in Pittsburgh and buy some more food. But as I started to go downhill in business, I thought, well, I can work harder. I'll work harder, Tom. But then, so I was open more hours. I was running out of hours. I'm like, well, I'll stay open later on Friday night because there's football games. Then I thought, well, I could do catering, so I'll open earlier. Then at one point, I got a paper route. I was in my mid-20s, and I delivered 250 papers on a normal day and 300 on the weekend. So I'm thinking, well, I'll just work harder. This is what I always learned. And then, so now I have a paper route. Then I started refereeing basketball games too, because I'm like, I'm just trying to pay my bills. So what do you do, Tom, when sometimes hard work isn't enough? Is it possible that hard work is enough? But my dad always worked hard and it worked for him. Is it possible sometimes hard work isn't enough?
Yeah, absolutely. It's possible that hard work isn't enough if the hard work isn't pushing you in the right direction. I think success is, first of all, success is complex, right? And I think there's a tendency for in messaging to try to boil things down to the most simplistic explanation possible. But that's not how life works, right? Nothing in life is simple. There's sort of no experience in life that is explainable in a sentence, right? So we try to do this in messaging. We try to like boil things down to the most simplistic explanation, but in reality, everything that happens is complex, and there are multiple variables that contribute to successes or failures. Grinding is almost never the answer, right? Grinding is almost never the answer. I think something that is much more important than how hard you can work, right? And whether or not you can work, for 20 hours a day for an extended period of time. I think what's much more important is, are you passionate about what you're doing? Are you in love with what you're doing? Right? If you're passionate about what you're doing and you're in love with what you're doing, you're much more likely to be successful than just because you show up for X number of hours a day, right? I always look at, I think there's sort of this popular conception that when you work for someone, what you're doing is trading hours of your life for a paycheck, right? And I think that's exactly the wrong way to think about it, right? I think work should be measured in terms of results and not time put in, right? So at the end of the day, what you're trading for that paycheck is the results of your work, not your time, right? And I think that and some businesses are getting on board with this, and businesses that have more flexible hours, and especially now because of the pandemic, I think a lot of people have been kind of forced into this line of thinking. But it seems to be becoming sort of a trend in HR anyway, that it's much more results driven, right, than time driven. So look, if you show up and you have a job and you have X expectations, and you can meet those expectations working 5 hours a day, I think you should get paid the same than if it takes you 6 hours a day to meet those expectations, right? At the end of the day, you're getting paid to do the job. You're not getting paid to sit in a chair for a certain number of hours. That's a crazy way to think about it, right? So I think it's all about passion and first, and work ethic, and ability to grind it out second, right? I think passion for what you're doing and love for what you're doing is much more important and a much better driver and motivator than just a willingness to work hard. That's my thought on it.
Absolutely, Tom. Good job. Jess, go on.
No, absolutely agreed. Like that's why I was flashing my mic. Like it just that hit home because I love what I do. And I get a lot of kickback from certain people saying things to me, and now I'm okay with that. But I love what I do. And I'm a firm believer that if, just kind of what Tom said, if you love what you do, you know, it's gonna resonate. But if kind of like if you're just chasing the quick dollar, it's different. When you love what you do, it resonates with your audience, it resonates just with people around you, you attract good people. And I always believe success is defined by the individual, not by your bank account at the end of the day. But that's my own personal opinion. It just resonated a lot with me. Thank you, Tom.
My
Thank you,
pleasure.
Tom.
Thank you.
Hey, just real quick, if you're in a career or personally doing something where you're following your passion right now, like 'cause some people might be here and saying, well, I'm not there yet. I'm going to work. I've been there, where I was working a 9 to 5 as a means to an end to get where I'm trying to go. But if you're following your passion right now, can we get a little clap? Okay, so we got some passion followers out there. Okay, so that's good news. There we go, double clap. And Anastasia, what do you want to say? Then we're going to go to Prof T.
No, I was just agreeing. My phone cut out, so I apologize if I missed if there was a question. I was just agreeing about following your passions.
We'll take it. Okay, Prof T, we're back to you. So you can share a tip about following your passion or adding value. Then we're going to go to LJ.
Yes, thank you. So as far as following a passion, yes, and I want to talk real quick. The word grinding, and I use that a word similar to that. I even wrote a book about it. My word is efforting. If you are efforting, and I don't mean working, we're always working. I'm always working. Entrepreneurs are always working. If you're efforting, and I found this, I'm a little bit older, I'm 20 years in the mental health and wellness field. I work with companies. Now that everybody's going back to work, people are going back to brick and mortar. There's an upturn now. And the mindset of people going back to work, especially those that have to, there's a lot of mental health issues that people haven't realized, and we're not even going to scratch the surface of that on this call. But that's what I do. I'm helping people put their mental health and wellness back together to get back on the job and do well. But as far as following my passion, yes, I'm at the point now. Been in my career for a while. And now I'm finally doing what I love to do. I have a book coming out. My passion is not sitting at a desk or in front of a computer. I navigated through this whole pandemic, and I learned how to navigate the world of virtual. But I realized one thing: I would rather be on someone's show. I would rather be on someone's stage, and I would rather be in someone's office or company. I learned that. So yes, I'm doing what I love to do. It is part of who I am, being with people, being part of a team of people and doing what I do best. So I'm following my dream. My advice is this: don't give up on your dream. Don't give up on working, doing your social media, putting yourself out there. Show up and show out. And I believe that if you are efforting, for me, certain things are efforting and it's dread when I get up. Oh no, I've got to sit in front of my computer and I got to do what? Some of those things have been efforting for me and they've reaped no reward. So I'm finally doing what I love to do, but don't give up on your passion. You find your way or the way finds you. And to me, success, and I'll land my plane with this, success to me is being able to lay your head on the pillow at night and saying, I gave it my all, I did my best, and I made a difference in someone's life today. So thank you. This is Prof T from Philly. I appreciate the opportunity. God bless.
Prof T dropping it like it's hot, Tom. There you go. But okay, let's Constance. Constance is here. Hey, Constance, how you been? Jim Ajay, you had something to say. I tried to call you up, man. If you want to come up, Jim Ajay is my right hand man at Motivation Champs. He's always has my back everywhere we go. So I'm appreciative. So we got LJ and Raj. LJ, how are you adding value, or can you give us a tip on how we can add value? But you're always free to ask a question too, because Michael Lozia loves to answer questions, and so does Charlie. So come on, let's do this. What's up, Sid? Sid, David, Lionel, Girish is back. Okay, sorry, I got sidetracked. LJ, you're up.
Hey, what's up? I'm leaving a parking garage, so I might have to deal with that service issue with Clubhouse. A couple things as far as like passion, I get the sentiment of the room, but I got some pushback for that. I grew up in an environment where there was no way I was going to be able to follow my passion. I just had to grind it out to get out of that environment. So I'm very pragmatic, and I think a lot of it comes from my perspective, being that I was in the military. I'm dealing with a lot of people in different walks of life because I wear many different hats, and there's just so many people that they use that analogy. And again, I'm not saying that's what we're talking about here, but it's very simple, and there's a lot of nuance to being passionate about what you do. One of the things that I pride myself on, and one of the reasons why I got a position where I am currently, is because I'm very passionate about aviation. But let me tell you, when I first got into the industry, especially into the Air Force, I was not passionate about it. Matter of fact, I really hated it, to be quite frank with you, because in order for me to get to the level where I could be passionate, I had to really just get into the books. I had to fail a lot. I had a lot of people that didn't really support me early on in my career. And so, yeah, I wanted to quit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wanted to quit so many times and I wasn't passionate. But then once I got past that hump, Jason and I were doing a room about this, about getting past the dip. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of dead bodies in my career. I put it that way. A lot of people that just they quit before they got to the finish line. And now I feel like, wow, I have so much zeal, so much passion. I'm so excited. But so I just think that for me, when I hear that, I get it. But I look at it from a mentor's perspective. I'm working with a lot of young guys, and I'm trying to instill that passion that I have for the industry into them, because they're going to throw away their careers early on before they actually see the reaps of the benefits of it. And so um, that's how I look at it. Like, and so I want to speak to that just real quick. And as far as like the conversation I want to bring up and how I'm adding value, I'm using Clubhouse as a way to kind of experiment with ideas. I think a lot of the rooms that I go into, quite frankly, are just very boring and monotonous. And so I'm looking at this app to be more creative with it. Even as an extension of my podcast, there's things I could do on Clubhouse that I can't do in other places. And I think it's a very interesting platform. So I'm just using it as an experimental tool. So like, if for like, especially like come next month, people that are following me, you're gonna start seeing a lot of different types of rooms that I'm gonna be hosting. Um, a lot of creativity. I'm talking to a lot of different people and kind of getting a lot of feedback. So for me, I just think that as far as me adding value, I don't really think I'm really in that season right now. I'm in a season of personal growth and development. So I have to really focus on how am I going to add value to myself? How am I going to grow myself, my family, my influence? And then maybe, people will get a lot of value from that experience or that journey. But to be quite frank with you, I'm not really in a space right now where I'm really focused on external motivating factors. It's a lot of internal work.
I got a question for you, LJ. And so you talked about how, early on in your career, you were grinding it out to get ahead, right? And so my question is, what were you passionate about at the time when you were grinding it
To
out?
be honest, that was the thing. So I'm very passionate about my family. Like, if you ask anybody, when I grew up, one of the things when I was 13 years old, I said, if my dream was that if anything happened to my sisters, I'd be able to take care of them. So when I was going through the military, when I was going through all that stuff, that's what I was passionate about. So the things that I was looking at, all the people hating on me or didn't understand why I was just so motivated and I was making them look bad or whatever that stuff was, it didn't really bother me because I want to make, like, even that's still like my North Star is looking out for my sisters and making them proud. And so that's where, because we didn't have that father figure, you know what I'm saying? So I want to be able to create that example for them. And so then, that's what I'm passionate about. But the work, it made it so much easier because I was just like, all right, yeah, this is just one more thing I got to deal with in order to get to that goal.
Right, because you're but so that's kind of my point, right? Was that you were passionate about creating a situation, right, or creating a life where you'd be able to be there for your sisters, right, where you'd be able to support your family, whether that's emotionally, financially, whatever the case may be, right? Because you guys didn't have a father figure, right, as you just said. So my point is that passion is a much better motivator to accomplish goals, right, than just straight up grind, right? Grind by itself isn't going to get you where you want to go. You have to find something you're passionate about accomplishing or achieving or doing, and that'll get you where you want to go, right? And so that was kind of the point that I was making, just to
Right,
highlight that
right,
for
right,
you,
right.
right?
Yeah.
So it's not about it's not even necessarily being passionate about the job. If the job is a means to an end, if the job is how you get to achieve what you're passionate about achieving, cool, right? Like, it's not, you don't have to be passionate about the work that you do. I'm just trying to encourage people to follow their passion more broadly and more generally, right? And I think ultimately in doing that, what you'll be able to do is, because you are sort of paying attention to what you're passionate about and where that's leading you in your life, because you're attuned to that and focused on that, it will eventually open up opportunities for you to follow passions professionally, right? Just like as you ended up developing a passion for aviation, right? I mean, I didn't study production in college. I don't have a degree in production. I wasn't a theater major or anything like that, right? I have a degree in psychology. I ended up getting a job in production and ended up becoming passionate about storytelling and content production, right, through following things that intrigued me, that fascinated me, and taking advantage of opportunities that were presented to me, walking through those doors, right? And so that's what I think is sort of the that's what I hope the takeaway is, right? Is follow your passion, because ultimately your passion will create opportunity, or help you create opportunity to provide, right, for yourself and to achieve goals you want to accomplish. That was sort of what I was hoping the takeaway would be. And totally understand. I mean, like, look, everybody's free to disagree. If you still don't agree with me, totally cool, right? Everybody's free to disagree. Equal opportunity here. But I just wanted to make sure I clarified the point that I was trying to make. Dom, I know you got something you want to add here.
Hey man, fascinating, and thanks for sharing it, LJ. Love the topic, and I'm such a believer in this thought of this. So many people just automatically attribute passion to work. Well, what if my passion is being the best dad I can possibly be? Well, okay, well then maybe you need to make X amount of money, but maybe my vision of it is I want to be a dad who is the rec coach who can line the field. What is it called when they go around and they drag the field? I want to be that guy. So to be that guy, and I'm not saying that's my case, but what an honorable thing if you just said, I want to make sure I never miss a game, that I'm the rec coach because of this is how I didn't have that as a child. So this is what I'm going for. Or maybe so you absolutely win if you have a job that gets you off at 3 o'clock every day so you can go line the fields and pick your kids up and things like that. Or maybe you love fishing. Well, maybe like I have a friend who is a Cleveland Indians season ticket holder, and he's in pharmaceuticals and medical sales so he can be at every Cleveland Indian game as soon as he can. Now, pharmaceuticals or medical sales gave him the finances to be a season ticket holder. It gave him the automobile to get there, and he's happy as a clam every day when it hits first pitch or when he walks into that stadium. So your passion, that passion can be, and like LJ said, hey, maybe that passion was to help his family, to support his family. That's what you were passionate about. And all those other things were a means to an end. And now you're well on your way. So I salute you, brother. Thank you very much. Let's meet. Let's go on. We got to meet. I see Raj. I see Sid. Best dressed David down there. So I don't know. Hold on here. We got Raj and David both rocking coats. So, Raj, what's going on today? How are you sharing that passion? How do we do it? Give us a tip. Ask a question. Go on, Raj.
Thank you so much, guys. This room has loads of value in itself. So I just want to say, absolutely amazing, and I commend you all for setting this up. And I just want to say that there's been some really, really great shares here. So it's been a great a great listen. So basically, I think that a passion for one to the next will be different, and everybody has their own individual passion, as you rightly said earlier. And like for myself, I'll give you a prime example for myself now. Is that I run an award-winning PR and marketing agency here in London, and it wasn't always the case. And the reason why I say that is that my experiences in my life has made me into the individual that I am today, and it's driven me for success because in 1990 in the UK, when the recession hit really hard, my father had lost everything. You know, my father lost his house, he lost his cars, he lost his money, he lost his status, he lost his dignity, his pride. So basically, my father was brought to his knees. And the most pressing image that stood still in my head till this day, and I'm talking about nearly 30 years on, was the fact that a guy came from the bank and took the keys away from my dad's house. You know, so what happened was, as I was growing up, I was only a young kid then. As I was growing up, I had this vision that I wanted to give my parents, one, their dignity and pride back, that which was their home, and then and that led me to basically want to work for myself. You know, don't get me wrong. I mean, I've done the 9 to 5 grind, and I just didn't want to work for somebody else and make them be successful and help them earn the money. So I've done various things. If you look at my Clubhouse bio, I'm a agency owner, so I'm the founder and the director of my own company, and I'm the head of public relations. But I'm also a owner of a record label that helps independent artists gain 100% of income back in their pockets via a return on investment model, you know. And we also help new startups and independent artists as well as businesses that struggle to find an online audience. Now, the reason why I'm doing that is because I know the struggles of running your own business. I know the struggles of not having anything to start your own company. So the way I provide value is that I do my own due diligence and I do my own research. And then what I do is I create content for people to consume and then go away and then see if they can implement those strategies that I put out there. Now, sometimes it comes to to a point where some businesses are too busy, they ain't got time, so they employ someone to outsource it. That's fine, and that's something that we do as well. We have a lot of outsourcing services that we have. So you can outsource it to us, and you can say, right, I want social media marketing. Do you do that? Of course we do. Do you do content creation? Yes, we do. So if you check out my Clubhouse bio again, there's a list of services that we actually provide. Now, our core principles are that we help businesses to gain visibility because we believe that it's key to be seen. Now, everybody's fighting for that bit of attention, whether you're on social media, whether you're on Clubhouse, or whether you're on your website, or whether it's offline, like through public relations, like radio, TV, billboards, posters, so whichever way it is, we're all fighting for that attention because we want that customer to spend the money with us. And the way we actually do our value core principles is that we provide free content, we build a trust, and then we ask people to come through our funnel where we have a free 30-minute consultation. Now, this free 30-minute consultation is basically valued at about £250. So we are giving that for free because I want to help businesses succeed, and I want them to basically succeed to a level that where they can be an award-winning company one day, or you could be like an award-winning artist one day, And I think if we can all help each other and if we can all collaborate, partner, and basically sustain each other's businesses as well, I think we will be in a much better place and we will be succeeding greatly. So that's where we are as an agency. Last year we won our first award, and we have so many projects coming this year. I'm involved in the mental health space, so we help like people in the mental health arena, and we're also launching our own YouTube Shorts course. We got a Pinterest guide coming very soon. And we're doing many, many, many other things. I don't want to take up time too much on the stage. But one tip I will
So
give.
give us one
Sorry.
final, so we make sure we hit it,
Yep.
keep it rolling here.
Yep.
So give
Yep.
us, because you're a guy out there doing it, making things happen, helping other
Yep.
people. What would you give as one tip for people that they're not to your level, they're just starting out, how to take the next step? What should they do?
I mean, I would firstly say that if you're a new business, a new startup, right, I would say look at your company, look at your business, look at who you're serving, what you're serving, and who your avatar is. Now, an avatar is a fictional character. So I would go as deep as you can, and then look at where your ideal customer is sitting, and then promote your business on that platform. Now, most businesses, I get it that when you're first starting out, it's difficult, but you still need to have a business plan. And part of that business plan, you still got to have capital to run your business, like your running costs. Because if you're going to be opening like any kind of company and you don't have running costs and you're not keeping track of your expenditure and your profits and loss, then you're going to ultimately fail as a business. So you need to understand the business side of your company or your industry. And you got to look at your competitors and see what makes you stand out, see what makes you different. Why would someone come to you and not go to your competitor? And then look at what kind of content you can provide in your social media, because everybody's on social media to consume content and also to gain that attention on followers. Now, my pro tip of the day would be don't rely on followers, because followers don't get you sales. Followers just give you brand presence. And that's all is there. Vanity numbers don't mean nothing unless you can convert them into customers. So you got to have a funnel in place for that. So there's so many different mechanisms that go into it, Dominic. It's not just one core principle. There's many principles that go behind setting up a business strategy. And it can work from social media to your business, to a mailing list, to public relations services. So they all can be connected, but it just depends how you connect those dots.
Raj, man, thanks for all the knowledgeable dude. Make sure you connect with him. Dropped a lot of tips for us there. So even listen back to the replay, catch them and write them down. Make sure you connect with everybody. Hey, we are going to meet Tom. It's time. We're going the Pied Piper. That's what they call her, because where she goes, people follow. We're going to meet Julie, and then we got to meet my man Sid. I miss Sid. Sid. I love it. Sid's Instagram game. Now he's doing stories and all this kind of stuff. So Julie, you know what we're talking about? Do your thing.
I really don't know. I just joined. I apologize, but I'm so happy to see Dominic and also Tom. I had a great convo with Tom last week, and Sid's amazing. Sid's doing great things. So if you have a very niche business or a niche idea, Sid is your guy. Sid is the guy. What's the question about passion and how we share our passion? Or
okay, we can go two ways here. So it's funny because I'm all over the place at all times. Hey, I am who I am. Sorry, guys. So the two things that have me really fired up today is how do we follow our passion in business, in branding, in messaging? My passion is this. Well, let's say me, I love basketball, but I'm not in the business of basketball. But but I love storytelling. Anyway, how do we follow our passion? Or the second question, Julie, how are you adding value? How do we make sure we're not just we're adding value and we're not just pitching, that we're adding value and we're not just involved in a vanity project where we want our picture on the cover of our book because we just want to have a picture on the cover of a book. So there's your questions, Julie.
Oh my God, you're sparking my ADHD now because I have so many answers.
That's why we get along. Go.
Maybe they're not answers, but things to think about. And I totally agree with Raj that, social media is a vanity project. And I love Tom once said, having your social media is like hanging the sign outside your brick and mortar door. You got to have it. It just lets people know about you, but it doesn't create that engagement. It is all about engagement. And what I see from so many people is that they are so scared to take that leap of faith, to really put themselves 1,000% in what they're passionate about, whether you're a coach, whether you're a writer, whether you want to start your own business. It's so scary because we have these golden handcuffs on us, these corporate handcuffs that give us benefits and security. So weighing those two options, what's more important, security or living your truest life, living your potential? And when does it become so uncomfortable with those handcuffs that it doesn't matter and you can take that leap of faith? I get it, especially if you have children and you have mouths to feed. It's a lot, but it's understanding that when you are going for it, when you are starting your own business, when you're writing the book, when you're starting the podcast, when you're doing all these things, that you know your purpose and it be bound in purpose, number one, because you're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to get a lot of rejection. And that's hard if you are not invested in it. That's when burnout happens and you're back shackled to the corporate grind. And there's nothing wrong with the corporate grind. But I think a lot of us here are creatives and entrepreneurs. And it's scary. Surround yourself with people that are a couple steps ahead of you as well. So maybe that answered your question. I'm not sure, but thanks, Dom and Tom. Appreciate this.
Absolutely. You're on fire, Julie. We appreciate you. Make sure you connect with Julie. I've had calls with Julie, and actually we're having a call later today. And she's like our buddy Ben Courier that just always add in value. Like I'm going to go to Sid. I'm coming to you second. I'm going to Jimmy first, ladies first here. But I was in a room yesterday, a sales room. Sales Made Simple, a Tuesday room. Harry Spade and Chris Michelle do it. And producer Jimmy came in and added so much value. Producer Jimmy, you should go back and listen to the replay. One, I think everybody in the room has an absolute crush on her now because she just came in. She's like, I got to go. But
Girl crushes.
Everybody in the room was like, holy cow, what just happened? I mean, she just came in and dropped like 20 tips where we were like Raj, where you're just like, I better write this stuff down. So producer Jimmy, have at it.
Wow, I do need to go listen to that replay, Dominic. Thank you for the heads up. I appreciate it. You're always so warm and welcoming. Wow, I love your spaces. And hello to everybody on stage. Tom, Charlie, Julie, LJ, everybody. Great to see you guys. So many wonderful people. Constance, I haven't been in a space with you in far too long, girlfriend. So hello. So yeah, I'm producer Jemmy. And actually, I apologize that I had to bounce for a little bit. I had a 10:30 call, but he called at 10. So I'm back. And I wanted to share something that I heard just before my called. And the question was posed, is hard work enough? And I had some thoughts on that because I was like, well, of course hard work's enough. That's I push for that all the time, building a life around your passion, finding out what your passion is and figuring out how to do it for a living. I say that all the time. Dreamers become doers. It's like, yes, do it. Hard work. I called myself a bull. Well, my dad calls me a bulldog. Once I sink my teeth into something, I don't let go. And then I was like, but wait a minute. No, unfortunately, hard work isn't enough. And I think it's because not to be Debbie Downer. This is not a Debbie Downer moment. This is going to be an empower moment. Just give me a moment. Because you have to be able to identify what boundaries exist that might limit you, that might put a cap on how far your hard work can take you. And then once you identify those boundaries and address them and knock them down so that your hard work can bear all the fruit that you're putting into it. When I started podcasting way back in 2014, and I had this crazy idea about building a business that provided podcasting production services for people. Well, the reality was that anytime I brought it up, I say half the time, it was really more like 3/4 of the time, people would say, "What's a podcast?" And if I didn't recognize that there was a limit, that there was a boundary right now as to how far my hard work could take me, because hardly anybody even knew what a podcast was, then I wouldn't have gotten where I've gotten. I had to first recognize that boundary and then knock it down. I had to decide that I needed to create a need and an awareness of podcasting, and then a need and a desire for people to have it as part of their content ecosystem. And so I started evangelizing podcasting any which way that I could. I got in front of groups. I went to meetups. I went to author groups. I went every chance I got to go to conferences that had nothing to do with podcasting, because it really wasn't a thing yet. And I talked about what a podcast could do. And I became known as the podcast girl of Palm Beach County. And then anytime someone had a question and thought maybe I should start a podcast, that's how people knew to turn to me. If I hadn't recognized that limitation, I wouldn't have had as far of opportunity to go. Now, of course, podcasting grew not solely because of me. I'm not that big-headed. It was going to happen anyway. But I had to initiate the spark in my local space in order to have the opportunity, in order to have people know that they needed my services, so that my hard work could actually have an opportunity to pay off. So recognize the limitations that might exist and then figure out how to knock those limitations to the ground. I'm complete.
Producer Jimmy, excellent stuff. I have a question for you. I hate, damn it, that's something you're not supposed to say. You're just supposed to ask the question. Pet peeve alert. So just ask the question. Do not say I have to ask you the question. So if I'm on this mission, and let's say, like I mentioned, having a restaurant. So when I had a restaurant, up now I'm a couple $100,000 in debt. I think I'm working harder, a couple $100,000 in debt. The IRS is saying I owe money. These people are saying I owe money. Is there a point where you've went too far, or is there a point where you have to reevaluate and say, this podcast thing isn't for me, or whatever that is? Is that part of the process too?
Sure. I mean, I think it's always good to reevaluate things on a micro level and on a macro level. I mean, as a most current example, I'm rebranding my show because I reevaluated, and that's a micro level thing, but I reevaluated where it was, where I was, and where I wanted it to go, and so I'm revamping it, right? So on the macro level, the same thing can be true when you're on a journey. Really listen to where your soul is telling you you're supposed to be going. And if it feels like you're on the right journey and the right path, and everything's grooving, then keep on it. But if there's a part of you that doesn't feel like it's something's off, then you need to examine what that is. I remember about 2.5 years into my podcasting, something started to feel off. And it was because, and I took a moment to examine it, and thank God I did. I was thinking about, is it time to stop? And I realized it's not time to stop. It's just the story that I was telling was complete. It was time to move on to another story, another chapter of this journey in podcasting. And thank God that's the decision I made, because I love podcasting more than ever. But I had to examine it. And so that's the show that I was doing at the time. It was time to, its life cycle ended. And I created Florida Podcast Network. And now this whole new thing is growing. So yes, it's okay if to stop something that you've been super passionate about it, if it feels like it's the right time, and you don't necessarily have to stop it It just may need to be reinvented for you. So I hope that helps answer that question. Dominic, thanks. It's a great one. I'm complete.
Producer Jimmy, thank you. LJ was talking about passion before when he was here. And when I was in that business, when all was caving in around me, it was actually no longer my passion. It wasn't just because I was failing miserably. All of a sudden, I'm starting to realize, wait, I don't like being in the kitchen 15 hours a day. I don't like going to work on Friday night when everybody's coming home and missing every birthday party on Saturday. So then it probably took me a while to find my passion, because I have a dad who's been in landscaping for 50 years, Tom. And here he is. He goes out and like touches the trees and works 7 days a week, and he's happy as a clam. And I never had that. And to see my dad have that kind of passion for his business, never complain about a backache or it being hot or anything like that. It was just, I aspired for that. And so very interesting, Jimmy. Thank you. Hey, Tom, we're on to our man, Sid. Anybody here, if you haven't connected or follow Sid yet, it's a miss. So Sid, you're on. You hear the subjects, man. Do your thing.
Thanks, Dominic, Tom, Charlie. Great to see all of you. Thank you all for the kind words. I appreciate that support. And Dominic, I'm always happy to follow producer Jimmy, though I feel unworthy to follow her because she always drops so many amazing nuggets. I think I might move myself back to the audience and come back up
Stop
later.
it. You're so ridiculous, Sid. I love you. Go ahead.
So I do have something I'll share real quickly, but I have a question, Dominic. So what I'll share is, somebody said this earlier, the struggle with mental health is real, especially for entrepreneurs. And if anything that I've learned over the last couple of weeks is we don't know what people are going through. We don't know the challenges that they have because they're putting on a brave face. But I'll say to anybody and everybody here, just ask the question. Ask somebody how they're doing and be that friend and listen. Don't offer advice. Don't judge. Just be there for somebody that needs it, because there are a lot of people that need it. And I think it's incumbent upon us to lead the way, to ask the question, how are you? And to state out loud, I'm here for you. And I'm here to listen if they need it, because I think there's more people that need that support than we even realize. So I just wanted to share that for a moment. But Dominic, I have a question for you about publishing. And this is open to anybody, but what are your thoughts about publishing a book that is basically the transcript of your podcast? So, for example, my Amazing Entrepreneurs Club podcast, I interview some amazing entrepreneurs. They share tips and they share insights that help other entrepreneurs. And the other day I was listening to a back episode just because I like to go back and listen to them. And I was listening to it. I'm like, man, this would make a great book. These interviews would make a great book, which is prompting my question. So I will pause here, and any insights or any information anybody has, that'd be great.
I'm gonna jump in here for a quick second, Sid. First of all, thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing. Asking that question, that important question of how people are doing. I think that is an incredibly important thing that people often skip over. I know that I go into all of my connection calls with the goal of learning about the other person and offering to provide value to them, to their business, to their network, to their audience. That's always my goal going into a call. And I think similarly aligned with what you're talking about in terms of, asking people how they're doing and really being there to help others, I think is an important thing. At the end of the day, it's like that old saying goes, a rising tide lifts all boats, right? And if we're all working together to provide support to each other, we have a much better chance of succeeding than if we all try to do it on our own on an island. So yeah, 100% agree with you on that. Dominic did pop away for a second. So in the meantime, I just wanted to throw in here that, I think what you're talking about from my perspective, I'm not a publisher, but I am a content creator and I'm in the production space. I think there's two things. One, those interviews are a great opportunity to use those for, repackaged and repurposed content across platform. And yeah, I mean, personally, I don't see why that can't extend to the publishing world. For sure it could become blog content, but I don't know. It maybe could become a book too. Dom, what do you think?
Okay, so the question is, I missed a little bit, but I love this subject. So this is, can I use interviews as a book? Is that where we're going here?
Yeah, Dominic, my question was, like, I was listening to one of my podcasts, one of my interviews on my Amazing Entrepreneurs Club podcast, and I thought to myself, wow, this would make a great book. The interview is so good. The tips they share are so good. And that's when I asked myself the question, wow, should you turn this into a book? Should you take these interviews and, share them in a published way?
Okay, love it. And I have authors doing it right now. I have friends, I have other authors I've worked with that have been bestsellers in the space doing it. Now it is delicate. And I'm going to tell you something here. I love Gary Vee. Love Gary Vee, consume all his content, think it's great. His book, Crushing It, he basically took the interviews, and the book sold millions of copies, so maybe he did it right. But he basically took the interviews, gave those interviews no love. And that's the thing. You need to understand that this is still a written book. So sometimes a podcaster will do it, and the book reads, hello, hey, I'm Sid. How are you doing today? How are you doing today? Well, let's get into this. And all this. Well, how about, can you extrapolate? Tom, is that the word? Charlie, is it extrapolate? How do you say
Extrapolate.
it? Tom, Charlie? Extrapolate. Charlie, can you say extrapolate?
I'd rather not.
Okay, there we go. Okay. Can you extrapolate the content, Sid, that key content? So could you give, I love this. I'd love to break this down right now. See, I'm getting too excited up about it. Could you take the 5 tips from 20 authors, the 5 tips from 20 podcasters, the best 20 things, here's a couple of their quotes. Here's what I take away, because it's your book and they really want to know what the reader should take away and what Sid take away, how to apply what they said in everyday life. If you can do that, Sid, man, you could take that content. I have a gentleman right now, Paul Gray, as we speak, he is doing it. And he took about 50 interviews. He did it magnificently. He added some, his own content from other books he had written. It's all original this time, so you can see. Well, here it was. His book is called Grace to All, and he highlights how these 50 people in the book are sharing grace in their communities. And then he talks about how he shares grace in his own life and things like that. So, Sid, how's that? Does that help? And I'd say go for it, brother.
Oh yeah, it gave me lots of ideas and not what I was thinking, but I love the approach to it, Dominic. And I think that trying to tie it all together, like I ask the same questions in every episode, like what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs? What are three things that you think make a successful entrepreneur? And then what are 3 tips that you would give to help other entrepreneurs along their journey? So I think there's definitely a way to tell the story, but also spotlight the guest and kind of in their own words write a bio about them so that people know who they are and know how to find them. So yeah, lots of good ideas. I'm going to add it to my list.
Can I jump in here really
Please,
quickly?
Jolie, then Tom, go on.
Okay. So, and I think Karina probably can add to this as well. I mean, Sid, absolutely. Curating a book that you could even, you can, of course, do the transcripts and then maneuver it so it's readable, because it sounds a lot different than when we're speaking. But going through that, parsing through it and making it readable. And also, I think, having the guests add contributions to it, that will help you out a lot. And it could be a coffee table book. It can be a reference book, but you are serving entrepreneurs, number one, but maybe it speaks to the way you've approached your vision of podcasting through a super niche industry. I don't know. That's my thought, but absolutely, just start doing it. It can be done.
Right. And what I would jump in here and say, and thanks,
What-
Jules, for calling me out. I'm walking my dog in Sunday school. Well, not in that order, but I just wanted to share that one of the things I'm currently working to do is actually take my podcast and boil them down to their core essentials to then publish on Medium, so that I'm really hitting the same topic, but in a more condensed way. And then also connecting back to the podcast to both grow my audience and my, my street cred and really establish myself more in that space. So that could eventually also become something that gets edited into a book. So I think you have to do more work. You can't just publish a transcript, of course, and really think about what the core essentials are of what you learned from that show or what you covered in that show. Thanks so much. I'm Karina and I'm done.
Hey, Tom, we're going to go to Tom here. I want to say, and I'm against publishing it straight as is. You hear, I'm very passionate about that. But I do have a friend I worked with that had a bestseller doing it, and I see he's at Barnes and Noble all the time. So I'm a purist when it comes to books. I read Gatsby and Red Badge of Courage and stuff. So I want a little more TLC there. But go on, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, I think here's what my advice would be, right? I'm not a publisher, like I said, but I am a storyteller, right? And that is, something Dom and I are both passionate about is storytelling. And I think in the case of this, the way I would encourage somebody to start a project like this is to focus in on what you want your through storyline to be. What is the goal? What do you want to accomplish by the end of the book, right? And then figure out how you're going to tell that story, whether it's through sharing stories of other people, like in a sort of case study way, or using your own story as a foil to create context. Figure out what the goal is, figure out how you're going to tell the story that gets you to that goal, and then use excerpts from the podcast, from the transcripts to support that story along the way, right? And if it's all sort of aligned on your mission, then I think those things will fall together pretty easily for you, and you'll be able to find excerpts and find pieces of the transcripts that will support that story along the way and help you illustrate points for the reader. But I personally think the best way to approach creating a project like this is to figure out the story arc first. Start with the story arc and then figure out how to support it using, within that context, using the content that you have at your disposal, using those transcripts. That's my advice.
And if I could share one more thought for Sid very briefly, I always try to think about things from the end user's perspective. And so, Sid, just keep in mind that someone who's reading a book is a different type of consumer than somebody who's listening to a podcast. So it could be really beneficial for you to think through what are they really looking for and expecting when they pick up a book to read it. I think when you're picking up a podcast, you're not necessarily looking for all the answers to everything, because you're just listening to you're listening to one episode. But with a book, it's meant to be a much more complete offering. So just keep that in mind. When you're translating things from a podcast into a book, make sure that it feels like a complete offering that people can take action on complete. Speaking of complete.
Those are great tips, and I appreciate everybody that weighed in. That gives me a lot of ideas and something to work with as I kind of think this through. It's not anything that's at the top of my list at the moment. It's just one of those creative thoughts that I had. And I hate to do this, Dominic, but I have to go. I have somebody waiting on me to call them back. So I appreciate being here and have the opportunity to hang out with all of you guys.
Hey, Sid, we appreciate you. Do me a favor. Get on. So let's mess with Sid today. Follow him on Instagram. And Sid posts food from time to time. Go on and comment on some of the food that Sid is posting on his pictures. That's how we're going to mess with you for leaving, Sid.
I appreciate that. You guys have an amazing day, okay?
Thanks for being in our room, Sid. Appreciate it, man.
Tom, okay, let's reset here. Okay, Clubhouse, podcasting, publishing, and social media. For anybody, we're live streaming today. We're in this room. We talk about all these things, and you see, we'll go anywhere on it. We talked from your wireless connections to publishing books to our whys and following your passion. So we've been all over the place today, and we're appreciative of everybody who stops by, and you guys make this room what it is. So we ready to keep on trucking, Tom? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so, man. Let's keep this thing moving. Let's keep it
Okay,
moving on
so
down the road.
we had the two best dressed. There's three best dressed in a row. We had Raj, David. Man, what's new today? You hear the topic? Ask a question. Drop a tip. Go on.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a good Thursday here. Well, it's been really great to hear the different avenues of passion and all that, and um, I suppose the one thing that I can add to that is that finding like communities to kind of fuel it, and I'm very grateful to join in on Clubhouse because I'm real. Like I said, I've said it before in other rooms as well. It's that I'm relatively new, so it's kind of cool to be with like my passions like in photography. It's my side thing that I do, but it's been great to be able to connect with other photographers and people that are into podcasting and stuff, and just finding those communities to stay on it and go after those things that I'm really interested in. So it's been cool. It's been really great to hear people's stories and how they're much further in those endeavors. So it adds that what's the word? I lost my train. But no, but it's been great to have that motivation, right? To see people further ahead and go after those things. But that's all I got for now.
David, man, thanks for being here, and I appreciate that. It's great to be in a space where you can see somebody. Hey, that person's doing it, or that person's considering doing it. I'm considering doing it too, or that person's done it. Why not? Why not? Why not me? I had a friend that grew up with a tough life, and in extreme poverty. Dad was an alcoholic, and they buried him young, and he wanted a different life for himself. And so he would see somebody out there that was successful, and he'd say, "Why not me? Why not me?" And so why not you, man? Hey, Charlie, back to Charlie real quick. I just wanted to hit him on Charlie. You came into this space of Clubhouse about a couple months ago where you were thinking about giving up on your story, and just quickly highlight what's happened to you in the last 3 months since you started really sharing that story again.
Well, I mean, I had a world famous dog that changed the lives of a lot of people, and then the dog passed away, and I was left not really knowing what direction to do, and I was not going to tell the story anymore without her by my side. And it seems to be now that since I've been to Clubhouse, I mean, it's incredible. It's humbling. 2.5 million views on a podcast, couple 100,000. I mean, go on a podcast. Someone like myself is a nobody, a trash collector. It's nothing for me to get 300,000 views. I mean, and that's what's going on today. And I got to tell you guys, I think of myself as a very simple guy that just barely graduated high school, but I just got a comment that I'm going to read to the crowd because it's humbling to me. Holy cow, this is a one-act play told by a master thespian. Only it's real and cathartic for him and the audience. So glad he lived to tell the tale. So basically, I'm telling a story that happened, and I'm telling a story that so many people really need to hold on to hope. And Sid said this before he left. There are a lot of people that are not doing really well, and they look like they're doing well, and they're leaving this planet with an 800 credit score with millions in the bank, and they're not doing well. And I was there one time, still there, real comfortable life I have. And it took a dog dying, coming back to life to show me the true value what this life is really about. I had my own "It's a Wonderful Life" moment, and I carry that story forward now. Thanks, Dominic.
Hey, brother, thank you for sharing, man. And really, I just wanted to share the possibility with everybody in this room. Like, Dave, here's somebody sharing their story. They thought maybe people didn't want to hear that story anymore. Maybe there was no value for this story. Maybe its time had passed. Instead, he gets on Clubhouse and makes this commitment. And I'll tell you, and I know Charlie at this point pretty well. Star is a big part of his story, but his story is a lot more than that. And he's able to use this as a platform to talk about addiction, to talk about abuse, all because he didn't give up on that story. So don't give up on that story. Okay. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you all. Tom, it is time to meet Constance. Constance, I miss you. Constance is my dear friend. When I got on Clubhouse originally, let's say it's been a year plus, Constance was one of the most supportive people, welcoming people. And when I was just learning how to use it, I would come on and just listen to her rooms. And I didn't even know at the time, Tom, I didn't know that, Julie, I didn't know that femme, because like people have these houses sometimes on like the clubs that are like femme, meaning they're for women. And I'd get in Constance's groups and just listen because I felt she was so interesting. So Constance, welcome back. Thanks for being here today. So share a tip or ask a question. Go on.
Well, thank you, Dominic. It's been a while since I've been on Clubhouse, so it really feels good to be back in your room in particular, because I think you bring a tremendous amount of value. So I'm actually going to go back to your kind of the original topic, I guess, in a sense, and just say that what I've been going through, I've had some medical challenges and other challenges the past few months that kind of sidetracked me. I went to back into corporate and teaching both for a little while, and just found that's not where I feel that, I mean, yes, I added value because I always do. When I go someplace, it's like I do my best to serve people, and do my part. But what I've found circling back around to my business, is I went from being an employee with Keep Infusionsoft to now being a certified partner with them. And I really like the idea that you're posing about bringing value, because through my certification process with them, it made me step back and really think about the value that I bring to customers and the value that I bring even to the customer journey. And I actually recorded an episode on my podcast about, the question that we should be asking when we're talking about getting new clients, new readers, new listeners, is how are we serving them? And for me, it's kind of helped me to reframe a lot of things that I'm doing, and just kind of really bringing me back to home base. And I wanted to share a brief story because this to me is just really, truly amazing. But something that brought me back to my center was back in January, in between the teaching job and the customer success manager job at Keep. I had a few weeks off in between. And I don't know why I got this wild hair, but somebody had posted on the Nextdoor app about Daniel needs a hero. Daniel was supposedly a 5-year-old pit bull who had been hit by a car, was going to need a $10,000 surgery, and he was going to be euthanized the next day. And why that dog appealed to me, it just did. So I literally jump in my car, I go to the shelter. I'm told, oh, you don't want to take this dog. He's, 5 years old. He's going to need all the surgery. Literally, they talked me out of taking the dog. And I walked out, and about that time, someone from the Nextdoor app called me and said, okay, we have a rescue, and we'll be glad to help you with any expenses this dog might have. Just get him out of there so he's not killed tomorrow. So I did. I went back. I got him, changed his name to Dex. The second day, there was an altercation between he and my little dog. Little dog didn't come out of it too well. She had to have quite a bit of veterinarian care, including cold laser therapy that worked miraculously. But this dog, Dex, I changed his name from Daniel to Dex, turned out to be a 2-year-old pit bull with a minor hip fracture, who is not going to need all this work. But the reason I bring the story up was my passion to help and rescue. This dog has turned my life around. It's like getting on a schedule just because I realize, For me, it was like really getting on a schedule, being committed. I put him in training. I'm also training him as well. And he's turned out to be such a wonderful dog, but he's been such an influence on my life because even though I have other animals, this one just maybe because I realized, that I literally saved this dog from dying. And I use that a little bit in my stories now because I feel like it brings value in the sense that, and it goes back to what you talked about with the passion. I have a passion for animals. I have a passion for people. I have a passion for helping. And I get very frustrated when I can't help. So I think that's the message that I want to put out there, that like if you look at your business, you look at your life, I think it really does boil down to how do you serve? This is Constance, and I'm complete.
Constance, thank you very much. It's a great reminder that how do you serve? So if we each left today with that thought in our head, how am I going to serve? How am I going to serve others? That's something I know, Tom, in your reciprocity, you talk about how do you serve a lot. I think I got it right. But you have an event up there too. So go on, Tom.
You gotta follow the rule of reciprocation, right? To establish reciprocity with your audience. And I know you love that word. Yeah, I put a link to an event up there for anybody in the sort of New York area. I'm part of an event coming up on Saturday, May 14th. It's there's a slate of speakers. It's being put together by a mutual friend that Dominic and I have, this guy Chris Worth, who is in the coaching and inspiration space. And so I'm speaking at that. I'm one of the speakers at the event. Proud to have been asked to do it. I am just in full transparency, I am not being paid to speak at that event. It is not a paid speaking gig. I'm doing it because I believe in the event and I believe in the mission of the event and the goals of the event, which are to create accountability and help people take their personal and professional lives to the next level. And so what I'm going to be doing there is talking about my legendeering strategy, which I believe is the future of how businesses communicate with the communities that they seek to serve. And I'll be giving it away. I'll be talking about it for 20 minutes. So it'll be kind of a high level discussion, not in super granular detail, but I'm going to give away the overall strategy. And I'm doing it because I genuinely believe it can help people. And that's my goal, is to always be adding value to the community. So if anybody is in the area, the ticket price for that event isn't going in anybody's pocket. It's going to pay for the venue and create the space so that we can have the event. So if anybody's around, if you're interested, please share the event with people you might know in the New York area. It's going to be held just north of New York City. We really appreciate the support there. And yeah, coming up next. So thank you everybody for listening. I know we don't usually pitch in this room. That's kind of not sort of what the space is about, but I wanted to share that event. Again, it's not a moneymaker. It is all about sort of trying to help people sort of take their business, personal and professional life to the next level. So please check that out if you can. And coming up next, we have Vaughn. Vaughn, let me pull up. I haven't followed you yet. Vaughn is the voice brander, according to his profile here in Clubhouse. So Vaughn, why don't you drop a tip, share some knowledge, ask a question? As Dom likes to say, the floor is yours, my friend.
Sure. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me on. And I'm loving this topic. And it's been a little bit since I've been back in the room with Dominic. But I hearing
hold
earlier.
on. Let me give Vaughn some props. Vaughn hosts a show called the Caregivers Care Jar.
Yes.
Caregivers Care Jar. I knew there was one extra word. And really digs into, and I just want to sidebar, there's so many people out there caring for their parents, caring for their children, caring for a loved one, and it's a really safe place for that kind of conversation. So he's doing a great job, and I was thankful to be a guest. And he's also an audio guy making helping people make their audiobook dreams come to life. So go on, Vaughn.
Thanks, Dominic. Yeah, appreciate it. You know what? On the when you're asking about your passion, and it's uh, interesting about the my caregivers, the podcast. We've kind of my co-host Christy and I, we've kind of been on and off because of different things throughout the year. And as an audio engineer, um, helping people, turn their written books to audiobooks, I found out this year, Dominique, like even though I'm really good at like editing and I call it Photoshop for audio, doing all the technical things to make, whether it's podcast or audio clean and to help people's stories flow on their audiobooks. But I've learned that even though I'm good at that it used to be my passion when I was like the technician only and be able to do that. But now my love is and my passion is really like you, like hearing people's stories and being able to get people to either speak their stories, whether it's through audiobooks or on the podcast about their journeys to help other people. My passion that I've learned, even though passing through the editing was I was passionate about editing because I love it and I love to do it, or I did. But really, my love is to help people um, get their stories out there on these mediums so other people can not only enjoy, but they can be encouraged by it, they can be uplifted. So now I changed from technician to CEO and to be influencer. Um, one of my I have two word purposes for myself personally. One is I exist to serve by facilitating discovery is my two-word thing. I facilitate discovery with people. And then the second one is I exist to serve to awaken worth in people. And for my business, it's we exist to serve to disseminate influence. So meaning we basically capture, polish, record or polish and distribute, audio through audio. And it's I can't be the technician in hours and hours and hours in the studio editing. That takes away from my biggest impact and influence about like being on like Clubhouse and meeting people or being a guest on podcasts or having people guest on my podcast, sharing those stories and getting those distributed. So I'm learning and actually expanding or changing to uh, let my business hire more technicians, hire more people that can help on all the admin and the technical stuff, so that I can have more time to be more of an impact, to be a speaker. I'm writing a book myself called Your Voice Journey, um, sharing about getting your voice. You've talked to thousands of people up to this point. Who else are you going to impact? That's what the story's about. Using our voices, why we someone spoke into us years ago and it's changed the trajectory of our life and they may not even be around anymore, but the things that we say leave such an impact and it also leaves legacy. So I'm changing from my passion of being a technician and loving the success of that, but expanding my impact to be passionate about hearing the stories when like your story, Dominic, and when we had you on the podcast, about whether it's caregiving and everybody's journey on that or their journeys of whatever it may be, but being able to be instrumental and a conduit to do that. So that's my passion. I'm glad that I was able to pop in and on this topic because it's helping me solidify what I'm transforming to right now to be more of an impact. So
I
my name
love
is
this
Vaughn.
idea, Vaughn. I love this idea you hit on there of that there may be things sometimes if you get out of the weeds on something where you may have started as the technician, but Vaughn is this great voice and communicator and things like that. So for him to impact the most people at this point, maybe he can't be the one doing 100% of all the work. I remember I tried to format an ebook one time. Now I have people that format ebooks and the interiors of books and the draw the covers and different editors and all that stuff. I spent, I'm telling you, 40 hours trying to format the interior of an ebook. I had no idea what I was doing. And when it was done, it looked almost as bad as probably the first day. It looked like a kindergartner could have done it. And it was definitely not the best use of my time. And I think if we all start to understand, or it's a learning process, right, Vaughn? Figuring
Yeah.
out what space. Hey, we're going to meet Rev here, Vaughn, but would you tell us the analogy of pouring from the saucer? I love my motivation. I need more motivation in my life. My business is Motivation Champ. So Vaughn's got this pouring from the saucer analogy that I think it would be good for us to hear. Go on, Vaughn.
Yes, similar to like on the plane, they say make sure you put your oxygen mask on first, and then attend to your child. Or it's when you serve. If you have a cup, if fill our cups first, and let it overflow into the saucer, and then when we serve others, we serve them from the saucer. That way, our cup is always full. Because if we're serving from whether half full or half empty cup, or it barely may have some residue on the bottom, we're not even full, and we're continuing to give, it really doesn't serve. It disserves us, and we lose out because we're running on fumes. So learning to fill our own cups first, make sure we're full, and so that it's pouring into the saucer, and then we're able to, from the abundance, really, really, really be able to serve and serve effectively, and we are still full. And I think that's the ideal place where we can be at, is serve from the saucer.
Vaughn, see, you lifted my spirits. Serve from the saucer, man. Thanks for being here. And like producer Jimmy said, connect left, right, up, down, Brady Bunch style. I'm gonna say Contra style. Tom, you remember back in the day, Contra had this. When you played games in the '80s, Contra had this
Oh yeah.
password: left,
Up,
right,
up,
up,
down,
play.
down,
Yeah,
left, right, select BA or
and
BA select start, something like that.
that's how you got 30 free guys back in the day. And so we're saying that as far as connecting, make sure you connect left, right, up, down. Check them out, follow them, see what they're into. Check out their content, send them a message, have that virtual cup of coffee. Who knows what could happen? Leslie, Rev, the nurse. I wish I had a bio like that. Mine just says like my name because she's doing so many things. So share a tip, ask a question. Go on.
Oh, hey, how are you doing? So you know what? I'm actually gonna pass this morning but I do want to make a comment, Vaughn. I loved what you were saying, and it is true. Like I try to tell people, like you have to be selfish before you're selfless, and that is actually the only way to be healthily selfless is to be selfish first and fill your own cup and get to a place where you can give without effort. That does just pour out. Um, And so that's basically all I wanted to say this morning. But thank you all very much. I love this room. Thank you, Julie, for sharing. And yeah, that's it. I'm complete this
Hey,
morning.
we appreciate you. Thank you. We appreciate you. If you didn't want to come up on the stage, say if you stopped in for 5 minutes, if you stopped for 10, if you're listening, if you come up and drop tips like Raj and Constance and Charlie did, Vaughn. Um, you guys make it happen. So we're thankful that you would choose out of all the things that you have going on in your life, in this world, all the other places you could be, that you gave us 10 seconds, 5 minutes, an hour. We're appreciative. Tom, we're going to meet Joyce, and then you can prepare and take us out, because once again, I have talked too much. I am now officially making myself sick. So Joyce, share a tip, ask a question, and Tom's going to do his thing.
Thanks for having me on. This is fun. I like positivity in the morning. I'm Joyce. I have a podcast called The Canna Mom Show, where we are enhancing or elevating the stories of women building this new industry. Today is 420. It is our national holiday. I spend a lot of time in cannabis rooms, but sometimes I just like to pop into a podcast room because I've been doing this for 4 years. And I don't really have a tip, but I am trying to step up my game. We're finishing up season 3 at the end of June. We've interviewed over 120 women across the country, around the world, and season 4 we are crowdfunding for. And I just want to get the message out there, make it bigger, help add my my butterfly wings to how we're going to impact this industry and change and crush the stigma around cannabis. And caregivers, that's my message. Thanks for letting me join you this morning.
Hey, Joyce, excellent stuff. And one of the things for anybody here, it's just because she said she's going on to season 4, finish season 3, right? I wonder how often she shares those first 3 seasons of shows. Like there's somebody you met today that hasn't listened to number 1 yet. So maybe go back. I would add, just like with the author, go back in and reshare those books, the content from before. If you believe in its value, share, because you're meeting new people. So that's all I got. Tom, like I said, I'm done talking. I'm zipping it. No more.
That's it. You're throwing in the towel. For everybody who couldn't see, he literally threw his hands up on the live stream. That's so awesome. Thanks, Dom. I appreciate it. As always, I appreciate you for running this room the way you do, keeping things moving, keeping the conversation moving from person to person, and making sure that we get through and provide everybody opportunity to share and ask questions. Because that's what this room is all about, right? We talk about that all the time, but it's all about equal opportunity and making sure that everybody has the opportunity to share and to ask questions and to get advice and to give advice. So I appreciate you for that. Always happy to be here with you. And thank you for everybody who came through today. Had about 120 people come through here today. So thank you, everybody who came through. Thank you, everybody who's here till the end. Really appreciate you. And appreciate you guys sticking around and sharing your wisdom and your knowledge and your value with the space. And the thing I want to leave everybody with today is something we actually started the room with for folks that weren't here, and that is this: thinking about the way we interact with each other. Tying knowledge to tying that knowledge to the sort of natural world. I was talking about how I realized from watching a documentary, my legendeering strategy is actually in some ways mimics evolutionary biology. And if you look in the sort of natural world, often very disparate species evolve together to provide support to each other so that both can thrive. And the sort of easy example for that everybody's familiar with is the honeybee, right? Who is a pollinator who cross-pollinates plants. And so plants evolved to have pollen that was sticky, that would stick to the legs of bees as they moved from plant to plant to collect nectar so they could make honey and support their colonies. And so my question to everybody here is, or the thing I want to leave everybody with today is, what are you doing in your life, personal or professional? What are you doing to be the plant that creates that sticky pollen so that the people in your orbit, the people in your network, your bees can collect that pollen and take it out and spread it to other folks and add value to a broader community? What are you doing to add value? That's what I want to leave everybody with today. It's something I work towards every day, and I would encourage everybody else to do the same. So that's all I got. We're going to go ahead and close it out now. Thank you again for everybody coming through. We'll do a quick countdown. We'll do 3, 2, 1. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.